is Lives, One Book at a Time, Spooky Edition. I'm your host, Yajaira.
And I'm your host, Cheli. We are reaching the end of October. It's so close.
It's so close.
The next episode we film is going to be Halloween, right?
No, we have one more and then it's Halloween.
Oh my gosh, 2 episodes left.
Oh my god.
So crazy.
I know. It makes me kind of anxious. Isn't it crazy that because we have to plan ahead so much, it feels like the month passes by quicker?
Yeah, because even though, I'm not going to say what day it is, but it already feels like the day this is going to be posted.
Yeah,
right?
Mm-hmm.
So then when I look at my calendar and it's not that day, I'm like, oh.
Oh, wait.
This is weird.
I'm way behind. Yeah, that's how I feel too.
But we talked about in our last episode that we've both been a little stressed out because our Goodreads goal doesn't feel like it's really going to make it there this year.
Yeah, probably not.
And it's to the point where both of us are going to be like, whatever it is,
I'm fine with it. I've kind of just accepted it. And I'll say it again. I don't want to be burnt out and I don't want this to feel like a chore. Mm-hmm. Like when I have time to read, I'll read, but it's hard to make time.
I am going to read a lot this coming week because I have time off from work. Mm-hmm. But if I still don't make it, I'm not going to be stressed out about it. But I know for me, when it comes to like books that I personally want to read, I read a lot of manga and I read a lot of comic books. Mm-hmm. And there's like a lot of debate whether those should be considered a read.
And I read it, or I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah, you do.
So people are saying that audiobooks, mangas, comic books, they don't count. Or they shouldn't count to our reading goal. Mm-hmm. But that's literally still a book that I'm consuming.
Because there's that whole backlash too with like graphic novels are ruining the youth's reading. Because it's like, you're not letting them read chapter books. And I was like, okay, but then if I think back to when I was a kid, the reason I read so well is because of all the manga I read that was online. Like, that was the only reason.
And I think it's common for you to go from mangas to reading chapter books. Mm-hmm. Because you're like, oh, that was so short. Let me read something longer.
Yep. I don't think this whole, like, what is considered a book
debate
is so dumb.
It is really stupid.
And why does it matter, too?
But I feel like this debate has been going around even when we started the podcast, which is, almost 2 years now?
Yep. Oh, my God. Yeah, you're right. We were so young.
2?
25. Yeah, I was 25.
I don't remember.
How old am I?
We're all reaching 70. But yeah, this debate just keeps happening. And I feel like it's because some people just are able to prioritize reading books.
Yep.
And that's why maybe they feel like
it's
I'm
weird.
better than you.
Yeah, right?
Because I have time and you don't.
I hate that because there are people online who are just like, I'm just on my 700 book. And I just don't understand how some people can't even get past 5. And it's like...
And meanwhile, they're probably reading like the most simplest fucking books ever.
Have you seen that girl who was like, I'm going to show you how I read 1,000 books in 1 year.
Is it children's book?
And she was like, I want to show you my favorites. The first one is like Green Eggs and Ham. And she like shows it. She opens it. She's like, one of my favorite authors, honestly. I reread this book 20 times in a day.
And that's counting to your goal?
That's counting towards it. So she was like, yeah, and here's a few others of his works because I really like his works. And she just grabs like a huge pile. It's like, yeah.
I mean, that counts.
Queen. Yeah.
Queen. I love that for her. And rereads count too.
Yeah, they do, which I didn't know. I wish I had known before because I reread Heartstopper like 40 times and that I didn't consider to put that on there.
You would have made your reading goal just with that book alone.
I'm planning on rereading The Last Ronin soon. So I'm like, I got to put that on there. I got to put that in rereading it because it has to count for something. Mm-hmm. But today... we're continuing our spooky theme. We're nearing the end, but we are going to be talking about Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova. Mm-hmm. Work.
So I am going to give you guys a short, spoiler-free-ish summary. If you hear it and you think, wow, that sounds so interesting, let me go read it. Go do that because we are going to spoil afterwards, okay? So, Monstrilio is a story about the death of 11-year-old Santiago and how his parents cope with it. His mother is unable to let him go, so she cuts off a piece of his lung, which she later keeps in a jar, feeds it food, and then the lung slowly grows into a ravenous creature.
The end.
The end. That's it. That's the whole book.
If you just want to go on a wild ride, I recommend go read this book because it is a wild ride. It is pretty gory though. Trigger warning.
Yeah, it is.
You and I do not know how we feel about this book. Like, we don't tell each other at all. And we like to guess how the other person feels. And you did say you don't remember much or the beats of this book.
I don't remember the beats.
But you do remember. But just not the way it goes.
I feel like once we start talking about it, then I'll remember certain parts.
But I feel like this book moved you. So I'm going to say you gave it a 5 out of 5.
Funny.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you gave it a 5 out of 5. I feel like you've been moved. Moved to tears.
You, like, if you're watching a video form, we edit, and I'm like more to the side. Okay. So also?
Yeah, I think you gave it a 5.
Okay, I guess we'll see. But why don't we...
gave it once.
I know. Let's tear this fucking book apart. So, like you said, this book starts with a couple whose son just died. The couple's names are Magos, right?
Yeah, Magos and Joseph. And their son, Santiago, died because when he was born, he was only born with one lung. Mm-hmm. And the doctors told the parents, hey, I don't think he's going to survive much longer. But he ended up surviving until he was 11. And then at that point, he dies.
Yep.
And so the mother is just like holding him, crying. And it's kind of weird because it's not really explained. It's not like...
She isn't crying.
Oh, she is...
No, she isn't crying. So she's holding him. But then it's
but
like
is it
she's
the dad
hugging...
that's crying?
The dad is whimpering. Like, he is a mess.
Okay.
But she's like holding him and she's like... Okay. I miss my son. I miss my dead son. He's in my hands right now. But... I've watched novelas and there's always dramatic music. There's people around screaming.
Yeah.
And none of that's happening. And right now I'm not really vibing.
Yeah.
I just have a dead boy on my head.
Which is not a vibe.
So she explains it as like, I'm bored. You know? And even though
there's no logical reason behind it.
No.
Why she does what she does. She just does it.
And I will say, I thought she was going to be the Monstrilio in this story. Because she didn't seem all there. Because it even described her as like, yeah, I like to walk around and follow my husband. Like, I like to observe. I like to see how people react and stuff. And she was just kind of odd. So seeing her son dead, she was just kind of like, oh, okay. You know, I miss him. I really did like my son. He was chill. He was pretty funny sometimes, but
she is spiraling because of his death. It's not like she's not reacting to it.
Yes, but she just brings up like she doesn't, even when she feels like she wants to cry, she's like, I'm not.
Yeah.
You know? So it feels, she just doesn't know what to show, you know? But it's her husband who's taking it the hardest. And what she takes harder than her son's death at what it looks like to him is him spiraling. Like, she's more affected by that.
Yeah, like it's kind of like a nuisance that Joseph is having a reaction to their son's death. But then she takes a sharp knife.
Yeah, so then Magos is like, okay, he was a very special boy. And I just want him to teach me, like, what part of him was special. Because she talks about his hair. And she was like, but that's not special because people see that. What's special is his lung because of him being born with one lung. So she opens him up and, like, literally opens him up.
Fucking performs
a little surgery.
An autopsy.
And cuts a chunk of his lung off. Which I did not support her at all after that.
Yeah.
But then...
But support her.
But...
You know what? My queen, she had a reason behind it.
I don't want to defend her.
I don't want to defend her.
But then I think about our culture. And that's kind of just something you do. Like, you take... When someone passes away, you don't take a lung.
It's more like hair. Yeah.
Or, like... if they wore jewelry often,
take their
you take
jewelry.
that.
Or like their necklace. Like you keep something of them. But to me, when it was the lung, I was like, what the fuck?
Just a chunk of meat. That's a chunk of flesh. And someone even tells her that later. It's like, that's not your son, right? That's meat. Mm-hmm. But she takes that. And while she's cutting it out and holding it, the husband walks in and is just like,
you ruined him.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Mm-hmm. That got me.
Yeah.
Ah.
I felt so bad for Joseph in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of crazy because seeing how he reacts to it, she's kind of like, oh, this isn't a normal thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is like, what the fuck? Because he was pale. He's just like, you're just holding a piece of meat of our child.
And that's why I felt like her reaction made me angry. Because it was like, to me, at this point, I felt like she had no right to do this. Mm-hmm. She viewed her son as kind of like, because she even says it. She's like, my son is mine. And even though he's dead, I'm not done with him yet. Like, I still need a
because
piece of him.
She does say that I carried him for 9 months. He's mine. He's a piece of me.
Sounds weird.
Yeah.
They end up cremating the son. And they get his ashes. And they decide to throw it near a dogwood tree. Which is a tree that is in front of their home, where he used to spend a lot of time playing. And it's so weird because they bring up this one part, and I want to read it. She talks about how she used to feel super sentimental about this tree because she was like, it grew like my son, like out of all odds. And then there was a bloom and I was like, that's my son, that's Santiago. Yeah. But I knew it wasn't him, so I killed that fucking flower. It's like, oh my God, just let it be. But when they spread the ashes, I like this sentence where it's like, as ash, everything Santiago touched now turned gray. Mm-hmm. And that's so sad to me.
Yeah, it is really sad. Ugh. But I mean, even when she says that, like, I killed that first bloom with one swoop of my hand, it's like so like quick, you know, there's no thought behind what she does. Mm-hmm.
So her and Joseph are not doing well. Joseph is like scared of her. Mm-hmm. So he'll pop up and like he'll scream and say, you're a monster, but then go to her for comfort.
Yeah.
So it's very hard on him. And she ends up bringing up the whole like, yeah, I don't like him much anymore because he's withering. And to wither is not the same as to break. To break is to have pieces to put back together, and to wither is just to dry up, to wilt, to lose bone, to die, and death is the most boring. You know, now knowing what I know about Magos, I'm like, is she just thinking of this in like a creative light? Like she's like, there's no art in Santiago's death.
I think because she's an artist, she's like trying to find meaning behind this. But I just think she's so hollow right now.
Yeah.
That she doesn't really have any logic behind her decisions, her movements. She's just kind of acting out of impulse.
Yeah, she is. But it's funny because she's very numb. Mm-hmm. And her emotions and the way she reacts doesn't make sense. And even when she goes back to Mexico, because she ends up leaving Joseph because she's like, I'm bored. Well, she doesn't say that, but she's like, I'm done and I'm going to go back home.
He's too sad.
He's too sad and she can't deal being around that because she was like, I used to like how he smells. Now he smells like shit.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to stay with him. So she ends up going back home to her mom's house in Mexico City. And she's there with her friend Lena. Mm-hmm. And Lena's waiting for her at the airport. And I want to read this.
Go ahead.
When she sees her, she runs up to her and says, I kissed the back of Lena's neck, where dark, thin, downy hairs grew, needed to love someone who wouldn't disintegrate. Startled, she turned to me. But I walked past her before she could blush or complain. Her taste still delicious in my mouth. And I just put a question mark. I was like, what the fuck? Oh my God. I'm so shook right now. Are you trying to eat her? So that just shook my whole world. Uh-huh. But I think Lena is one of the friends, or one of the only ones who's like I'm not going to talk about
what happened. Yeah.
I won't bring it up.
Because she doesn't even like cry or look sad or anything. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, she acts like nothing happened.
Mm-hmm. And now this is where I start to understand Lena more, because she starts getting like these memory gaps where she's like, I don't know how long it's been since I came here. Has it been like a week or like 3 months? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So she just has been in the depression with her husband that her mom, whose name is Lucia, is like, you didn't even let me see Santiago.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you didn't let anyone.
We didn't even have like a proper funeral, a proper burial for him.
So they're going to throw him like another funeral. Mm-hmm. And Magos is like, yeah, you do whatever you want. Go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then when she's in her room, the housekeeper for the mom, Jackie, is in there when Magos is unpacking and she sees the jar. And
no, she doesn't put it in a jar first. Doesn't she like just have it like wrapped in paper?
Oh,
and
yes.
She sees it and then I think she explains what it is. Like, oh, it's just a lung of Santiago. And then Jackie tells her, oh, well, don't feed it. Don't feed it because there's this one story of a mother who cut out, or who was it?
It was of a person who didn't have children, really wanted children and she couldn't have them. So then someone had died at a neighboring place and she took a piece of that person. It was a kid. And she was trying to grow a kid.
So she fed this piece of meat and it grew into a person.
A man.
But then didn't they fall in love?
They fell in love and then they made the perfect kid. But then when that happened, they both ended up dying very tragically.
And so Jackie is trying to tell her, like, don't feed it. But now it gave this freaking idea to Magos.
I'm gonna feed it. That's what she is doing. Yeah. So she feeds the chunk
chicken broth, right?
Caldo.
Caldo, love caldito.
The pollo, love that. And she just stares at it for a bit, and she's like, "Do something. Like, what's it supposed to do?"
I know she thought it was gonna be like immediate.
Yeah, but then she wakes up the next day and notices that the broth is gone, and she had thrown in like veggies in there too, and those were gone too, and the chunk of meat is now bigger. So she's like, "Oh my god,
it's happening.
This bitch works." So she's growing it. But I think even before that, when she's talking to Jackie, Jackie does remind her, she's like, you do know that that's just flesh, though. Your son is dead.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way to bring him back. And that story was just kind of showing, like, even if you tried it and it does happen, there's consequence to what you do.
Like, it's not going to be a replica of your son. But it's weird because it's not like Magos is grieving in a way that, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me, I guess.
It doesn't make sense to me either. It's funny because it doesn't really feel like it hits her until way later in the story.
Yeah.
That she lost her son.
Like, way later in the story. I was actually kind of shocked how long it took her.
She does mention, though, that Santiago's death didn't fit her life, though I had known it was inevitable. It stopped my life as I'd built it. We had been a unit of 3, Joseph, Santiago, and I, and without my son, our unit ceased to exist. I was back by myself, not back. I had never really been by myself. And I just feel like with her specifically, even though she's grieving different than her husband Joseph was, I think she's just someone who doesn't like change. Like, she had something that worked, and then all of a sudden it just isn't anymore. Yeah. So I think that kind of explains why she reacted the way she does. But she's also just not your typical person. Like, she doesn't do things that would be considered typical. She feeds it, it grows, and then one day, the day of the funeral, she calls Joseph to come, and I think he doesn't. He doesn't come to this one.
No.
And
he tells her, like, oh, it's too soon. Right?
But he'd think about it. So they're talking again. But she's over here, and she doesn't really want to be here. And then all of a sudden, her and Lena, I think, leave. And they see, like, a rat running around the house. But it's not really a rat.
Yeah.
So they chase it around, and then it runs into Magos' room.
Yeah.
And then she notices that the jar that she had put the lung in is all broken. And then the thing that's running around doesn't look like a rat. So she catches it, and she's like, oh my God, this is the lung. The lung is this. It's alive. And she lies to Lena. It's like, yeah, I threw it out the window.
I killed it. It's gone. Don't worry about
No, but she's like, I didn't want to kill it, so I threw it out the window. And Lena's like, we're 2 stories up.
Yeah.
That bitch then is like, no, it's fine. No, mice bounce back from that shit. Like, it's fine. And so she kind of drops it, but this thing continues to grow. And the way that it's described, it's like frisbee shaped. Like, it's a super flat thing. And it's just growing, and it growls. Like, it doesn't speak. It just makes noises, and she feeds it. And that's it. She continues to grow it, and it isn't until this thing is big enough where it's like, I don't know. It gets to a point where it's big enough that you would consider it like a pet type of thing, where she calls Joseph, and she's like, Joseph, you need to come. I need to show you something that belongs to Santiago.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I'll be there this weekend. And so he comes that weekend, and he's like, you gotta show me. And it's like, no, we have to wait until later. I'll show you later. And this thing's gotten so big that she ends up, like, putting it in a shoebox and, like, taping it shut because it's, like, runs everywhere. But when it gets to the end of the night, Joseph is sleeping on the couch, I think, and Magos comes out, and then she's like, you want to see it? Do you want to see him? And they go to the room, and it's not there. I think it's like something happens and it bites. You hear a scream.
Oh, yeah.
And they run over, and it bites the dog, I believe.
I thought it bit the...
Jackie. Not at this point. I think it's after the first bite, the scream that they hear. Everyone comes down, and it's like a horrible bite. I think it bites Jackie. And the bite is so bad that it, like, hospitalizes Jackie. And that forces Magos to explain, okay, it's going to sound crazy, but remember the day you made that bomba's caldo? So I did feed a chunk of my son's lung that I kept, and it grew...
a little bit. Just a little bit.
Meet my frisbee-shaped son.
His name is Santiago, okay? Call him Santiago.
But they're like, nah, bitch. That's a monster.
Yeah.
So they, Joseph, who is just completely, like, shocked by this story, doesn't believe it, gets a hammer and hits the monster and kills it. And so
is it a bat? Or is it a hammer?
It's a hammer.
Okay.
It's a hammer because they bring it up again later.
Oh, okay.
But when he kills it, it, like, breaks like, Magos. She, like, completely is like, I think she cries, which is shocking because she didn't cry when Santiago died, but she's crying when this thing died.
Yeah, it's because she's delusional. She thinks this is Santiago.
And even, like, going to go bury it, she's like, I can't do it. I can't bury it again. Like, as if it is Santiago.
Yeah.
So she ends up just putting it on top of a garden bed and leaves it. Joseph leaves, and then she's just gets extremely depressed. Like, she doesn't take care of herself. She doesn't shower. Her room's a mess. Doesn't talk to anyone. Just stays indoors. It's weird because I didn't expect there to be so much pride in this book.
I didn't either, but it was great. I loved it. Well, when they first kind of gave that inkling that something may or may not happen between Lena and Magos, I was like, okay, I'm here. Kind of love this. And then I was thinking, why didn't she just end up with Lena? She's a surgeon.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't pick a surgeon?
And what was the husband again? An artist? Right? I don't know what he was either. But it's funny because she's like, the mom is like, go live your gay experience. And
yeah,
she's like,
she wants her to be with Lena.
Right back at you, mom. Because the mom also really likes the housekeeper.
Jackie.
So, it's just kind of brought up, but I just thought that was, like, a cool thing. Everyone kind of is paired up near the end, too. Everyone has their pair. But, I don't remember.
Monstrilio comes back for vengeance.
No, Monstrilio comes back and attacks. But then at this point, Magos is like, wait a minute. He's attacking because he's scared.
He's a little scared. It's not his fault.
Wait a minute. Oh my gosh, my hair smells good. Okay, but it was like, you're gonna smell it. It smells like nothing.
It smells really good.
Does it?
It does smell really good.
Oh my god, thank you. Okay, so sorry. So Monstrilio comes back and Magos is like, I'm gonna raise it. I'm gonna raise it, and calls Joseph and is like, you need to come back here. We're raising our frisbee son. You know?
Which she calls Santiago.
But everyone else calls Monstrilio. So Monstrilio they're basically raising it like a pet. They make it like a little jungle gym. They like...
Which Monstrilio has like a tail, which he loves to hook onto things.
They call it an arm tail because it has a little claw at the end.
Yeah, so he just like swings around. He's kind of very destructive a little bit, but... Isn't
it kind of funny that the one who wanted this the most is Magos, but the one raising Monstrilio is Joseph?
Yeah.
And Lena, too.
Yeah.
It's both of them.
Magos, honestly, was such an annoying character to me, especially in the beginning because...
And at the end.
Okay, I didn't want to spoil it, but yeah, you're right. She's very annoying. I just feel like she didn't cope with the death of her son, so she kept Monstrilio. And he was so destructive, and everyone was like, we shouldn't keep him. He's not Santiago. So then when everyone does keep him, she's not even doing anything.
Yep.
She's leaving the raising to Joseph and Lena.
And it isn't until Monstrilio grows a little more where she's like, we need to cut off his arm tail. And Lena's like, we don't even know his anatomy.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know anything. It's like, okay, then let's...
What if that's like where his brain is? Like, you don't know if that's where he's getting blood or...
And the reason they do that is because they notice after they give it an x-ray that it has the body parts of a boy inside of it, but just in different places. And that arm tail doesn't have any bone, any cartilage. It's just like there. So they're like, no, maybe that's what is holding him back from growing. But then Joseph is like, you can't hurt Monstrilio. You can't. He's living like this and he's happy. Like, you guys just need to let him be happy.
But Magos really wants to, because she thinks that cutting it off would make would tame him. And also, there was a lot of instances where he would just like eat a lot because he was growing.
So I do want to say, they do end up cutting it off, and Monstrilio gets extremely depressed. But she does have a point, because he does start growing in like a way that appears to be humanoid. Like, and that's the end of Magos' story.
Yeah. Well, because it's told between 4 different perspectives. So it's Magos, Joseph, or Magos, Lena, Joseph, Monstrilio.
Yeah. Actually, that was kind of in Lena's story, too. And by the way, when Magos' story ended, I was like, oh, that's what they're doing with the chapters.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. I thought that was the name of the whole first chapter. But I was like, okay, Lena. And I looked at the other names, and I was like, wait, why is there an M at the end? And at this point, I was like, oh, my God. Monstrilio is going to talk.
Yeah.
And I, at this point, thinking about what the cover looks like, which it has a little monster in the front, I was like, yes. Let this monster son be born. This is what I want, and this is what I crave. This is exactly what I need in a story.
Yeah.
So going into Lena's part of the story, Monstrilio gets the surgery and gets really...
Lena does the surgery.
Yeah, she does. And it gets really depressed. And Joseph is over here seeing Monstrilio go from being super active to just sitting there, sleeping most of the day. And he's like, he's sad. Like, he doesn't have the shine he used to, and I want to put him down.
Yeah, he wants to put him down, and he kind of tries to convince Lena to do it as well, because she can also see that Monstrilio is not what he used to be. And I can't remember how they were going to do it.
I don't remember either. I think it was going to be a shot.
Yeah, right? Just like an injection. And didn't Joseph have a moment with Monstrilio where he like looked at him and he kind of gave him a look like, yeah, this is good. I'm good if I die right now.
Yeah.
But then Magos shows up and she's like, bitch, no.
This is a weird thing to bring up, but do you remember that part where Lena was like, my mom thought I was the devil, so she would like make me go naked and check if I had devil markings.
Yeah. I thought that part was kind of crazy, because doesn't she also make a parallel between how they're treating Monstrilio and how her mother treated her? I don't understand why her mom was so convinced that Lena had the devil in her.
And the mother tried to poison her, and it's like...
Yeah.
She just believed... It was probably because she's gay, right?
Maybe. I don't really remember, but...
Yeah. And it was... Lena talks about how she constantly seeks women, like, prostitution wise, but she doesn't look for sex. She just wants someone to bathe her
because it helps her sleep, or else she won't sleep.
Damn, that's fucking crazy. But I did want to bring up when Monstrilio starts to become more humanoid. So Joseph ends up not killing it. They are letting him grow, but they do notice that Monstrilio, even though he has his body parts, he only has one lung. But when it's Monstrilio, like, he actually breathes fine. He has no breathing issues whatsoever. Yeah, it attacked the mom, and she was like, just don't tell my mom. Monstrilio's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. He's just growing, and he's a little hungry. It's not his fault.
You don't get hungry? Oh my gosh. But then after the surgery too, and they see Monstrilio again, Joseph is like looking at him with tears, and Monstrilio just says, Papi. How did you feel about their Frisbee son saying that?
I was a little creeped out.
I was too. It feels just like, I don't know. Because then I was like, okay, did they actually remake their son? And if they did, what is going to be the consequence of this? Because the story in the beginning, there was a consequence. But they did make their son. So
what is the consequence?
So I didn't know where that was headed. But he ends up saying little things like Papi, Mommy, Lena, Jackie. And he even says like, no, yes. Or like just like common things. Food, whatever. So he's starting to learn. And then, Joseph gets super, super attached. Refuses to eat any veggies. Monstrilio only eats meat. But they train it to not bite people. So it's like, okay, we just got to make sure that he's good like that. Around this time, Lucia does tell Magos, like, you need to make something with your life. Because I think around this time, too, Joseph and Magos file for divorce.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I need to do something with my life, so I gotta venture into creativity again because I'm an artist. So I'm gonna try to make a one-woman show or whatever. At this time, Monstrilio is also still growing. And something big happens that makes them move, right? Oh, it's the death of Lucia that makes them move.
Yeah.
Because Monstrilio is growing. Because, okay, Lena's part's basically over. So in Lena's part, Monstrilio grows up, kind of, becomes like a little human. I think it's Joseph who is talking to Magos at the end, and he says, Monstrilio is not Santiago. You want to make him something he's not. And then Magos says, I know what Monstrilio is. I made him. So
it's going back to what she had said about Santiago, that he belonged fully to her because she made him too.
And then Lena doesn't want any part of this anymore. She's like so disgusted by all this. She ends up moving to New York. And I think Joseph also moves. He moves to Brooklyn.
Oh, it's because Monstrilio killed... That's because who forgot to feed him? Lena?
Oh, yeah. There was like hella dead animals in the room. And it was like, see, because you forgot to feed him once. And it was like, what can we do? But Lena leaves. She does not want to be a part of this anymore. And so does Joseph, but Joseph leaves because he wants to continue his life. Like, he hates having this thing holding him back. He loves Monstrilio, and he still loves Magos, not in a romantic way, but just in like a familial way. And he decided that he's going to move on and start a new life. So you see a little bit of pride in Joseph too, because the chapter starts off with him being proposed to by his boyfriend, Peter.
Yeah, and I was really shocked. I was like, how much time has passed by that he's over here getting proposed to?
Basically, I think it's been 7 years, right? I'm like shook because I was like, how does Monstrilio, his Frisbee son, look? I want to know.
Still a Frisbee?
I know.
I hope so.
I wrote everyone gay in this bitch. You kind of see who he is, and he talks about his life, how he used to use an app to get like just sex with people, and that's how he met Peter. He talks about his new life, how he's super happy, and he ends his first chapter by saying, whatever he was going to say, I didn't want to hear it, because he's talking about Peter. I didn't want him doubting me. I wanted to marry him. I was stepping closer to a life where my past had no place. I was shedding them. Magos, Santiago, and M. Fuck, who the fuck is M? Why don't they call him Monstrilio?
It's just so too much of a mouthful.
I know, he couldn't say it all. But then I was like, I don't know how I felt about this line. because I liked Joseph and I do like Joseph. But it feels weird to me that he wanted to shed this, you know, because out of both people, I would think the person who wanted to shed this the most would be Magos.
Yeah.
So I didn't agree with his character.
I think it was because, you know, being proposed to Peter, he probably thought, how am I going to be with Peter and then have Monstrilio attached to?
Yep. Because he didn't tell Peter. And I don't think he ever told Peter.
No.
It was just a secret he lived by, because who would believe that? You know? But then the next chapter starts and he's at his uncle's house in Cobble Hill. And he's talking to his uncle, Luke. And they're talking about M. And it's like, well, where's M? And it's like, oh, he's in Berlin. Didn't you hear he got a job? Like, it's so exciting. And I'm like,
a job?
How old is Monstrilio? Yeah. I was like, that's fucking crazy. But he's basically an adult.
Yeah.
Already. He's growing faster, in a faster pace. But he is getting a fresh start in Berlin, living with his mom. They talk about how they even want to send him to school. And Uncle says he has a chance to be a boy now, a man. Magos agrees. She's trying to get him a job. So that's where it kind of starts.
Yeah.
But then Joseph brings up that Magos still calls M Santiago. Yeah. But like Joseph can't. And it hurts him because even Peter calls him Santiago. But it's because he thinks that's his name. But he doesn't have the heart to correct Peter. Yeah. Because it's like, where do I even start?
Doesn't Peter even say, like, why do you call him M?
Yeah, just say his beautiful name, Santiago.
Santiago is a very beautiful name. And then I think even his uncle mentions, like, are you going to tell Peter about him? And he's like, nah.
And I like the uncle a lot, actually, because he's the only one who's like, you got to let Monstrilio be. Or you got to let M be. He is like that because he is M. He's not human. We can't stop him from eating meat like this. We can't stop him from acting like who he is. He's like the most accepting one out of all of them.
Yeah, he is. The most like level-headed.
The reason that M and Magos moved to Berlin is because Lucia, Magos' mom, does end up passing away. She passed away a year ago. And it really like fucked up M's life. So they ended up going to Berlin for this fresh start. The next chapter I fucking love because it's Santiago's birthday, which is also M's birthday. So then Joseph calls M and is like, happy birthday. And it's funny because the way M talks is like, yes. You know, yeah. Thank you. Are you okay? How you doing? Like, you know, he has no emotion in his voice.
And then he just says, like, Uncle Luke? Like, he's there, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, he's good. You having fun? It's like, yeah, mom gave me a tart.
And I was knitting. It's very, like, to the point. Not very full of emotions, I guess.
Yeah. He gets a job, and then it's like, awesome, where? And immediately M is like, you think it's a good idea? And he's like, yeah, it's a good idea. At the gallery, doing what? Helping mom. It's like, yeah, that's so cool. I love it. Joseph's such a, like, supportive dad. He's like, yeah, you do that. You're going to be amazing at that. Yeah. But in a way, too, him and Magos, they dealt with this in a different way, but very similar in the sense that they're both in denial that this person, M, is not who they want. Or not who they expect. You know, they want him to be something else. Magos wants it to be Santiago, and Joseph clearly wants it to be M, this new individual that we respect as a human, living as a human. Yeah,
that's a really good point. Because even when Monstrilio does something that's in his nature, Joseph is like, oh, but he didn't mean it. But he didn't mean it. No. He won't do it again, though. He won't do it again.
But then, and also like Joseph is like, but he's changing because the other day M called me and he told me he wants to kiss one of his coworkers. And like,
so that's very human of him to do.
Very human of him. And then the next day, like M calls and he's like, I had sex with my coworker. Bit him.
Dude, it threw me off because I was like, isn't he a child?
Yeah.
How old is M?
He was around, I'm guessing 19, 20.
Yeah.
But he ends up having sex with a coworker and now they're dating. And Joseph is like, oh my God, this is amazing, but don't bite people. You can't eat them. And he's like, no, he told me not to eat them. So I said I wouldn't. So, you know.
So I'm not going to eat him.
Yeah.
But he tasted good though.
Yeah. That's so funny to me because he's so stoic. So he's just like, yeah, I would bite him again, but I promise I wouldn't. I won't. But then, see, they're living this whole life, and Magos is super happy, and she's like, I made this new show. It's called Sun. I would really appreciate it if everyone came out and watched it. So then Peter, Joseph, even Lena come out to watch the show in Berlin, and they're standing with the boyfriend, I don't remember his name, and M, and they're watching the show, and the show is basically the death of Santiago, and it's so horrible.
Yeah.
How did you feel seeing
I was
that whole thing?
so annoyed with Magos, especially because M is there.
And it's weird. Magos makes everything about her. And, like, I get it. She did carry this baby for 9 months. This was her baby. She lost her baby. But it's as if she's completely tossing the fact that M is their own person. They're not Santiago. And she gets called out when she finishes the show because M leaves. And she's like, where's Santiago? And it's like, you just did that in front of M. Like, how do you not understand how this makes him feel? He's not Santiago, so why do you, like, continue to do things like this? And I don't remember if she feels called out, but
I don't really think she cared. I don't know.
I don't know either, but they all go looking for M. On their search for M, I think it's Joseph who finds M. And it's in the neighbor's house, and he ate a chunk of the neighbor.
Yeah.
And he's just in there, and he's just like,
I was hungry.
I'm
sorry.
Came over here, I was asking him how his day was, and I'm my mom. I'm like, what do I do?
He's like, that's great, but you smell even better. So
I know. So I just kept going. But then he ended up stopping, and it was like because he told them, I didn't mean it. But then he's like, I lied. I did mean it. I did bite him. Was hungry. Just want to let you know. And the thing that got Magos the most, because Magos was the one that's like, no, Santiago's amazing. Santiago's changing. It isn't until this moment where she first calls Emme. And it's like, okay, now it's not Santiago because, the Santiago that was here with me in Berlin, like, we loved the neighbor and we loved his cat. And Emme just ate a piece of the neighbor and ate the cat, So they all clean the evidence.
It's crazy to me that everyone just kind of does this for Monstrilio, which I know they love him, but wouldn't you think that seeing him eat the neighbor would be like a wake-up call to everyone and be like, oh my God, you know changed.
What? Yeah, he's not.
No, like, he's not actually human.
But to them, he is. And it doesn't click to anyone. The thing is, I think it does click to Lena, but Lena also really loves Monstrilio.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have any say in this, and she just follows along with the cleaning. The one it never really clicks to is Joseph.
Yeah.
Because he's like, let me clean you. It was an accident. It's okay.
You'll never do it again.
Put the fangs away. But he, like, comforts his son and tells him it's never going to happen again, then cleans up all the evidence, washes all the blood off, and they're lucky because, like, the bites were so crazy that they believe it was a vicious animal, so they're never going to blame it on Monstrilio, on M. So they're clear. They're clear. So for the time being, to make sure that M doesn't get found out, M ends up moving with Joseph and Peter? Or with Uncle Luke? It's Uncle Luke.
Yeah, it's Uncle Luke.
Moves with Uncle Luke and gets a job at the bookstore and starts a new life. And in this bookstore, he makes friends with someone who teaches him about dating sites. M is just kind of like, oh. And then this is when it changes to M's perspective. Yeah. Which this is what I was looking forward to the most.
Yeah, same.
And one thing I really liked about M's perspective is that he never spoke with quotes or quotations. And it kind of reminded me of how in the beginning of the story, Magos was an observer. And it kind of feels like that's what he is. He's an observer to the world. So when people talk, it's just kind of like, that's what's happening. So this is my response. This is how I act. This is how I smile. Like, he just is part of it, but not a human. So he doesn't, like, exist with them. He exists near them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he gets a job at the bookstore and he really likes it because it's like a never-ending job and it's boring. And he's like, perfect. Like, I could just do this forever. Mm-hmm. And he meets someone who's like, you got to put yourself out there. Go on dating sites or whatever. And I don't know how it comes up, but he's like, I just want to bite people. It's like, yeah, people are into that. Put that on the dating site.
Yeah, because they're thinking like, oh, it's just like a kink thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think he tells Uncle Luke about it. Mm-hmm. And Uncle Luke's like, is it illegal? It is? Okay, you good. Like, you know, it's just like, yeah. You do you. Just don't do anything bad. Mm-hmm. And Uncle Luke's over here, like, treating Monstrilio to, like, fucking half a cow. Mm-hmm. And watches him unhinge his jaw and eat the whole cow. And he's like...
Yeah, because he's like the only one who really accepts him.
I love Uncle Luke. Same. I love him so much. Mm-hmm. Monstrilio goes on these dating sites and just meets people that just have a kink for biting. Mm-hmm. And the first person he meets, he bites, but he's like, I can't draw blood. So he kind of just is there, and the guy's moaning, and he's just kind of like,
that's it.
You know that? And he like runs away and goes home, and he was like, I don't think I'm seeing that guy again, but yeah, you know, whatever. And he continues to try, but each person, like, there was one that lets him draw blood, and there's a few that let him draw blood, but it's always just like, it's just like a taste of blood. Like, it's not enough. It's not until he meets this guy online named Sam, who's like, eat me. Like, he's just like, eat me.
Yeah, he's like down. Yeah. He's like, you know, I've always wanted to be eaten, so now's your chance.
So then he goes to Sam and bites him really hard to the point where it ends up bleeding. And I think that's as much as he does this time around.
But doesn't Sam, like, punch him or slap him?
Sam beats him up.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's like, well, you bit me, so...
Yeah.
And I think that's Sam's kink, right? To hurt someone that bad. And he tries beating Monstrilio up with, like, a bat. And Monstrilio completely, like, takes his fangs out, unhinges his jaw, makes himself look as non-human
also,
as
isn't
possible.
his tail, like, growing?
Oh, yeah, the tail is kind of growing back, so you can see it on the side. And Sam gets scared, and Monstrilio escapes. And I felt like that was the end of that. Like, to me, I was like, oh, my God.
Same. I was like, oh, he's not going to do it again.
And I kind of wanted this to be where M was like, you know what?
I'm a new man.
I'm a new... man, not monster. I'm a man.
Like, man is for man.
So that's what I thought. But he does write back to Sam and just writes like hello and gets no response. He does tell Lena that his claw is growing back, his arm tail. And Lena's like, does it hurt? And he's like, yeah, sometimes. It itches sometimes, but that's kind of it. And Lena's like, just keep me updated with what happens. So we are reaching the end of the story. Remember, Peter and Joseph are about to have their big wedding. And I think Monstrilio's friend tells him, like, you know, at weddings, you always have to tell a story. Like
a meaningful story.
I fucking hate that never happened.
Me too.
I wanted a meaningful story.
Yeah.
So he's just like,
or
okay.
just anything, really.
He's like, okay, chill. And so he goes home, and at this point, we learn
it's gonna be like, remember when you built me a jungle gym?
Remember when I ate our neighbor? Oh wait.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, we weren't supposed to tell that one. But this is the point where we learn that he's like, he talks about the people around him, and he's like, well, the person I know the most is Santiago because I have his memories. Like, I have a piece of him. So he actually, at night, can, like, dig in his mind and get pieces of Santiago's memories. And he has, like, mannerisms that used to belong to Santiago, like liking Fruit Loops. His breathing sometimes is as if he is Santiago with his one lung, even though he can breathe just fine. Yeah. So he thinks about these things, but he knows he's not Santiago. Yeah. But sometimes when he wants comfort, he'll just be like, oh, there was a day where Mommy and Papi went to the zoo with Santiago. Sometimes I'd like to just
play it,
have that memory in my mind. The last thing I see before I fall asleep. And I thought that was because he wanted that. Like, I thought he wanted that human life. So when everything seemed like, you know what, this is going to be a turn. They're going to have the wedding. It's going to be great. Sam texts him and is like,
hey, bitch, remember when you bit me? you didn't bite hard enough.
You up? Let's do this again.
It's just the letter U. You up. And he's shocked.
Yeah, he is.
M is shocked that he would reach out to him again.
But also down.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as he gets it, Monstrilio, M is already there. And he's like, okay, we doing this? It's like he's already at Sam's house. And Sam is like, the whole house is green. And Sam is there, walks him to the white bed. And he's like, Master, I want you to eat me. And so then Monstrilio's like, okay, eat some.
Master.
I know. He's like, where's the master here?
What does master mean?
No, but then Monstrilio bites, takes a chunk of his thigh, and then just starts chewing. And is just like, eats it. And he's like,
wait, that was kind of delicious.
Yeah, I mean, what do I do now? Because, Sam is like screaming, but then he's like, keep going.
Yeah.
So then he eats the other side of his thigh, and he's like, okay. Wait, I didn't know it was buffet day here. So then he keeps going, and that's where it stops. Mm. And so then we go back to Uncle Luke's house. The whole family's there, and they're all together. And Monstrilio, it was because him and Joseph had went shopping. Yeah. And Joseph was like, why are you late? And Monstrilio was like, no reason. I was just out. And then when they end up going to Uncle Luke's house, Peter brings up that there was a news article about this man who was murdered and completely picked dry, just all bone. Yeah. And it's funny because everyone at the table automatically knew fucking M.
Peter.
I know.
Peter was like, fuck, that's crazy.
That's cult shit right there. Apparently that guy wanted to go to Mars or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's funny because everyone knows it. The readers know that everyone knows it. So every single character at that table is like, well, it could have just happened a long time ago. Well, it could have been a wild animal. What if it was and it's like they're all creating excuses for M. Mm-hmm. So then M walks away.
Even though Peter's not like, did you do it? He has no clue.
No. So M walks away, and then everyone basically ends up at M's room and is like, fucking M, what did we tell you?
If you were going to eat somebody, could you at least let me know so that we can help you clean up? Well, and then M was like, he wanted it.
He said it was okay. And
consent is everything, guys.
But it's funny because he says that, but then in his head, he's like, but I don't tell him about the part where he told me to stop. Yeah. But they don't need to know that. Yeah. That's fine.
That part freaked me out a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
Why?
It's just because I was like, oh, he really is a monster.
I know. Because parts of me are like, it's possible for him to be human. But then he'll do things like that and completely dismiss the severity of the situation. And it's like, fuck. There's no hope for him. There's no hope for him. And
we can't really blame him for it because at no point were we supposed to really accept him as a human.
And they even said it at the beginning, this isn't Santiago. So the whole story that we've read, we have to know that this isn't a person either. Yeah. So you said, it sucks, but he's not human. Mm-hmm. So he stole Sam's phone and took the sheets and took anything that belonged to him, and they destroy the evidence and whatever. But I do really like the part where everyone's in M's room, and then Peter's like, what's happening in here? You guys just left me back there. We were playing
Peter,
Scrabble,
get the fuck out, Peter.
No, but I like this part because everyone's like, M just wanted to show us something. And he's like, okay, M, what you got? Show me what you were going to show them. Mm. And he pulls out a book and he's like, I just wanted to show them this book I really liked. And did you see the book that he pulled out? It was the book we DNF'd. It was We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson.
Oh my God, yes. No, I finished that book.
I finished it too. We
DNF'd it as in to not talk about it for the podcast. Yeah. We were going to talk about that last year.
Mm-hmm. Around this time.
Yeah. So I do remember thinking that. Oh my God. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
I just thought, damn.
I wonder why that book was brought up at that point, though.
I know. I just feel like the book didn't hit us the way that it probably should have.
But now sitting with it.
It's like a gothic horror, no?
Yes. Now sitting with it and thinking about why this author would bring up that specific book. unless they're besties with that author. But
what I remember about the book, I could be wrong, isn't it just a weird-ish family living in a castle? Or like no. Is it a castle? It is a castle.
Yeah.
And all of the neighbors just hate them, right? Or like they're judged by the neighbors.
But all of them are also dead. So the story is you see the life that they live and how everyone avoids them. But it's because the only one who's alive, her whole family died around her. And she's trying to remain like, you know, like a normal family. She wants this to work. But each of them always mention like, oh, but remember when I was poisoned?
Oh, yes.
You know? So at the very end, her and her sister lock themselves in the house because like
the neighbors are destroying the house. I remember that part. So I think he probably brought it up because I think he's a threat to the family.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. I feel like he could become a threat to the family. And they're just kind of like living in this bubble of, oh no, everything's going to be okay because we love him.
Yep.
And that's enough. But it's not enough.
Yep. And it's like in that story that we have always lived in the castle, it feels very much like that. Like you're trying to hold on to something that shouldn't work. And that's their whole life. They're trying to make M a human. They're trying to make him, but he keeps doing these things. So there's no point to hold on to something that already died a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know? So it really sucks, but M gets away with it because they find hair at the place where Sam died, but it's monster hair, like
it's the fur,
hair.
Right?
Yeah. And so it's like, it's fine. They're not going to connect it to M. But then when it gets to the wedding night, the day before the wedding, M is just like, goes up to Lena and is like, Isn't
it in the house where Santiago lived?
Yeah, the house with the dogwood tree. Yeah. Where they spread his ashes.
Because I remember him being in the room and being like, damn, you lived like this?
Race carpet? Could it be
Loser.
me? I got a limo bed at home. No, but he's like, he's looking around and is like, you know, set. He's set with whatever he's thinking. He goes to Lena's room and he's like, I'm gone. Like, I'm done. I'm leaving. Thank you. And then he's like,
Thank you for cutting off my tail. Love you.
Love you, queen. It is growing back, so maybe you didn't do a good enough job, but whatever, queen. Slay. So Lena's the only one that's like, okay, you go ahead and do what you need to do. So then he goes to the mom's room and Magos is like kind of shocked, but also like, if this is what you want,
also
go ahead.
We didn't bring up that at one point Magos was ready to leave him. Like, she was kind of just like, oh, well, I'm going to go make my life over here in a different area.
Why was she like that?
And he's just kind of like, you're going to leave?
Yeah.
Like, even though I feel like it showed that she had grieved. Like, she's done. And her grieving is pretty much just leaving M behind, you know? Because she's accepted that Santiago is dead. So why does she need M?
Oh, you're so right. Because it happened after the neighbor went through that. That's when she started being distant. And I fucking hate that.
Yeah.
Magos is not a good character.
No, I fucking hate her.
So, but she, you know, she was the mom figure to M. So he says that he's going to leave and she's okay with it. But then the one it hits the most is Joseph. And Joseph's just like, can't you just stay until the wedding? And he's like, no, it has to be now. And they hug. I'm going to read just the last part. I walk along alone to the dogwood tree, leave Crackle under my feet. I fold my pants, my sweatshirt, t-shirt, underwear, and socks, and leave them in a pile by the foot of the tree, my sneakers on top. Mommy, Papi, Lena, and Uncle Luke watch me from the other side of the pond. Lena holds Mommy's hand. Papi puts his arm around Mommy. Uncle Luke stands behind them. Mommy blows a kiss. I'm just laughing because, like, they're all basically like a shoulder, you know, like just hugging, watching a naked boy run, and fucking imagine Peter out at his balcony, like, what the fuck is wrong with this family?
He's like, good thing the wedding hasn't happened yet because I'm calling it off.
I knew they were fucking weird.
Peter's not there though.
No, he's not. But I'm just imagining, like, him just seeing a naked Monstrilio just running away, and the family's like, "That's my son.
That's my son."
I knew he could do it. I knew he could. It was just like a little claw hanging out. But they see this happening. Monstrilio says, "I turn towards the wood. Ahead of me, there's only darkness. It will swallow me, but I don't panic. The panic is not mine to carry anymore. I can let it go. My arm tail uncramps. I unhinge my jaw, let my mouth stretch as wide as it will go. Soon I won't feel the cold anymore. My body is already regrowing its patchwork of fur. The world lightens before me and reveals its edges, its shapes, and in between spaces, I step forward."
I kind of love that his arm tail is growing back. Even like when it was already growing, I had a feeling like, oh, this is like symbolism that he's going back to what he should have been before they cut it off. Why are you crying?
I just fucking love Monstrilio. Dude, I thought you said we were going to read a horror book.
I know, literally. Why am I crying?
I know. What did I write? I put, "I would die for Monstrilio. Damn, King, slay, pride, gay pride."
Oh my God.
I'm just so like, I love this story so much. Fuck Magos.
Oh my God, yeah, seriously.
Fuck her. She's such a bad mom. But Joseph, to me, like he had his thing was just not being able to allow him to be who he was. Mm-hmm. But I like that he let him go at the end.
But I get it though, because even when they grieved Santiago, the way that Joseph was just like crying, and it's unfair to Joseph because had none of this happened, he would have just grieved him very quickly, right?
Yeah.
So him like crying for Santiago in the beginning, and then Magos introduces the new Santiago. I felt like him falling in love with M. It's not that he saw him as Santiago. It's just that he filled the void that Santiago left. So I understood why it was so hard for him to let him go.
Yep.
You know, having to let go of a child again.
Mm-hmm. His was more like, I understood more where he was coming from.
And then Magos just pissed me off because she was, I don't know, just like she did all of this and then she was ready to let him go. Just her doing that whole play thing.
The sun
thing. I just don't understand her reasoning. Like, to me, she feels more vacant of emotions.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but during it was an interpretive dance. During that play, didn't she put on the outfit that Santiago died in? Because it was like an adult pajama set.
Yeah.
But they let him wear it. So she was wearing something her son died in.
Yeah.
Why do you still have that? Like, why do you have it for you to just wear?
She's fucking weird. She's weird.
And she just, oh God. And even during that stupid fucking play, fuck Magos, but even during that, Joseph brought up, it's like funny how this is the most she's ever cried, but when Santiago died, she did not cry at all.
Well, I mean, it makes sense for you to be in shock.
Of course.
I get that. But I just feel like, again, she didn't have emotions to me. Like, she was so hollow.
Yeah. I didn't like her.
Me neither.
I didn't. Joseph was all that mattered to me. And Uncle Luke.
I like Lena.
Yeah, Lena was good. Everyone else was good to M. Mm-hmm. I don't think that she was, but she also did help M go through that like life of like the human life, I guess. So I appreciate that. But I do like M's decision. It does hurt me. Very Toy Story 4. Very Toy Story 4. Just leaving your family behind to do what you want. The one where Woody, spoiler, the one where Woody leaves.
Woody leaves?
Have you not seen Toy Story 4?
The one where he gets adopted into that little girl's family?
Oh my God, you haven't seen Toy Story 4.
Woody leaves? Wait, what?
Oh, wait, are you serious?
You were just spoiled.
It's been years. And it's been like 5 years.
With Forky?
Yes. No. No. That's not Forky. It's the one after that.
Okay.
The one with the blonde one.
You know what? This isn't a Toy Story.
No, okay, well, I'm not going to connect it then. Go watch Toy Story 4, I guess. But I like the sense of like, you have to move on. And even though there are people that you love, like, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
You know, so I love that Monstrilio got to have that.
But it's not for him, though.
No, but his life of living in the wilderness, I mean. So I like that he understood, like, you know, it's time for me to go.
Yeah. So now he's the chupacabra, right?
Wait. No, he's forever Emmett. I'm not even going to call him Emmett because that was the one that Magos gave him.
I know, but I do like that, Emmett.
I do like that, too.
Fuck Magos.
I know. Very Magos hate. It's a Magos hate podcast.
Yeah.
Every episode from now on, we're going to start with fuck Magos. Okay, guys. Hello. Welcome to the new episode.
Yeah, she was just the fucking worst.
Then
I felt bad for Lena, too, because, okay, they had a thing together, kind of.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out.
No.
Right? Like, once time had passed by. I can't exactly remember why it didn't work out. I just know that it did work. It didn't work out, I mean.
Yep. She didn't want to fix Magos. That's why. It, like,
Magos
wasn't her job.
was too fucking broken. That's why.
Mm-hmm. You know what? One part I liked when M ate the neighbor and he left and they were already living at Uncle Luke's and Magos was like, oh yeah, your boyfriend really misses you. You should write him like a goodbye letter. And then Monstrilio just thinks to himself and he's like, I'm alright. Bye. Sex was fun.
Oh yeah.
You tasted good. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Like that was all he was gonna write.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how'd this bitch get a boyfriend? Like, that's so fucking funny. So I don't know.
Well, his boyfriend was weird, no?
His boyfriend was weird. Overall, I fucking love this story so much.
Yeah.
I would hella read it again.
Really?
Like, it's so good. I even, like, I don't know. It's just really sad to me that the outcome was like this, but it's one of those, like, it needed to happen type of moments. I thought the dialogue was really good. I really liked how they switched up the way the writing was when it came to Monstrilio's perspective. And I would recommend this to anyone who's like a non-reader. I think this is like a good book if you are looking for thriller.
I would also say that I think that the book did a really good job with talking about grief.
Yeah, it was really good. I love books like that. I originally said I was going to give this a 4 out of 5, but I think if rated on Storygraph, I would give it like a 4.75.
Really?
Like, it's up there. Yeah.
Wow.
And on Goodreads, I'm probably going to give it a 5 out of 5.
But it's not it's not one of your 5s out of 5.
No, it's not one of my 5s, but I do want to bring it up as like a shout out when we do our 5s.
I really enjoyed the story too because I felt like it was very unique. I don't know, like the story just felt very different.
Yep.
But I definitely felt like a connection to it, especially with the characters, like the family, pues, like with them being like, oh my god, we gotta throw a mass for him. Even though I couldn't stand Magos, like I liked seeing the variations of how everyone grieved, I guess, and even like with Lena not even bringing it up because I mean I could see that happening in a family where it's like, what death?
Yeah.
Like, wait, who? You had a son? When? I thought that the story did a really good job with Monstrilio's character as well because I feel like for me at some points I was even like, no, yes, he could change. I was like Joseph. I was like delusional. I was like, yes, he didn't mean it though. Yes,
you eat one guy.
You eat one guy and the cat and now you're a bad guy. It's fine. He didn't mean it. And so like I felt like we mentioned with Sam.
Yes.
When he ate him and then was like, I'm not going to tell them that he begged me to stop.
Yeah.
Like that was a moment where I was like, damn, he is really not human.
Yep.
And I think that really hit me. And I also really loved the writing. I liked how they broke it up into the different characters. And then I also loved that they finished with M. And I hadn't even noticed, or I did notice, but I didn't really think much of it where they didn't have dialogue for M. Yeah. But I agree with you that that's probably the reason why, that the reason why was probably because it's in his perspective and how he's taking in the world around him. So I would give it a high rating. I just don't know if I would give it a 5. I feel like I'd probably 4.5.
Okay.
It's a really good book. I think I would recommend it as well, like you.
Mm-hmm. Can I say something as like just one more fuck you magos thing?
Fuck you magos.
The reason I brought up her like weirdness at the beginning of the story, because did you notice like her kissing and tasting Lena's neck, her observing the way that Joseph acts? That is very much like how Monstrilio is.
Yeah.
And the fact that when he ate someone, she was just kind of like,
also,
not mine.
Wasn't there a part in the beginning where Joseph was showering and she was watching him and she was thinking about like, oh, like I remember him tasting good, but now I'm repulsed by him. So with her, it's a lot about taste also.
So she was very much like him.
Yeah.
So it really adds to the hatred of you really let him go.
Yeah. Bitch.
Thank you. But for real, like, fuck Muggles.
Yeah, fuck her.
Fuck that bitch.
Fuck her.
Thank you, everyone who's listening to us in audio form, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or anywhere you get your podcasts on. If you can leave us a rating of 5 stars, because that's helped a lot with us growing. It's been, like, crazy.
And we really, really appreciate it if you can do that.
If you can, please do. And if you can leave a review and recommend us our next read. We're all filled for spooky season. It's almost the end. So give me something lighter, please. Very found family. That's what I look for. And arranged marriage. Because no, because that's our 2 things. Mine is found family. Yours is very arranged marriage and forced proximity.
No. Yeah. Mine's soulmates.
That's what I said.
How dare
That's what I said.
We start fighting.
I know. But if you can recommend us what we love, I think that would be very nice.
Actually, I thought we were going to do fake dating.
You're just fake dating. Just recommend fake dating. That's all we read on this podcast, except for 1 month of the year.
Also, can I just say this was his horror debut?
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to read more stories from this author. But
when they release more stories, this is their debut.
Oh, like very, very first.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, let me follow him on Instagram. But if you have a little bit of extra money, there's ways you can support us. What can they do?
So we made a Patreon, and right now, for the moment, it really just serves as a way for our listeners to let us know that you like what we do here, you appreciate how much we read. You can find us, if you're interested, through patreon.com/bookfix.
And if you are watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. If you can like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because we post every Tuesday and Thursday. If you would like to follow us on social media, we do have an Instagram and a Threads at the Book Fix Pod, and we have a TikTok at the Book Fix. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So at the end of our episodes, we always read a positive and negative review of the books we've read. And this book on Goodreads did get a 4.19, which is pretty high up there.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
But let's go ahead and tear this bitch apart. I want to find the bad rating.
Okay, I'll find the good one then. Okay, so this is coming from Scottsdale's Public Library. They gave it 5 out of 5, and they wrote, dark and hauntingly beautiful. The grotesque Monstrilio has onion layered themes. At its most accessible core, belonging, being human, grief, fierceness of a mother's love and acceptance. This is incredibly unique debut by Cordova. Oh, sorry, I said that wrong. This incredibly unique debut by Cordova has a similar theme and tropes to Frankenstein and Kafka's Metamorphosis. I highly recommend this captivating and disturbing tale and hope to read more of Cordova in the near future.
Okay, and Andrea gave it a 1 out of 5 stars on Goodreads and wrote, between the utterly creepy writing about motherhood, this is a me thing specifically, and the creature, also a me thing, this book is very not for me. I was willing to go forward with it, but I got to 45%-ish in and was subjected to Monstrilio committing a needlessly descriptive massacre of dogs and cats. No thank you. There was minimal cat-dog death prior, but this was gross to the point it was gratuitous. So, DNF. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye. I would die for Monstrilio.
Are we counting DNFs as...
I don't know, because the other ones were just stars. I was not going to read it.
No, that's fine.
But it's funny because one of them just says Harry and the Hendersons honestly did it better. And I don't know what that is.
Who's Harry and the Hendersons?
It's probably another book. I'm very much gonna follow this author though.
Yeah, me too. I think that this was a really, really strong debut.
Oh, it came out in March. Wow.
Oh my god.
Dude, oh my gosh.
So we're gonna follow him?
Yes. And we're also gonna watch Toy Story 4.
Yeah, I feel very...
I'm so sorry. I thought you watched it.
I'm sorry. I know. Wait, can I look up the ending? Because I think maybe I have.
I can't believe you're gonna do this.
Hold on. Wait, what? I'm gonna cry.
Dude,
I'm gonna cry right here, right now.
Hire that shit.
No, I haven't seen this.
You
this.
haven't?
I haven't seen
this. Bye, everyone.